The morning light filtered through the thin curtains of the small apartment as 12-year-old Marcus stirred in his bed. He had been born profoundly deaf, navigating the world through sight, touch, and vibration. His mother Sarah worked double shifts at the hospital to support them both, often leaving Marcus alone overnight. She worried constantly about his safety, but Marcus had proven himself remarkably independent and resourceful. As consciousness slowly returned to him, Marcus felt something warm and wet against his left hand. The sensation was gentle but persistent, like a warm cloth being repeatedly pressed against his skin. His eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the dim morning light streaming through his bedroom window. What he saw made his heart skip several beats. A large golden retriever sat beside his bed, its tongue carefully licking his outstretched hand. The dog's eyes were kind and intelligent, but Marcus had never seen this animal before in his life. Their apartment building had a strict no-pets policy, and he knew every neighbor in their small complex. This dog was a complete stranger. Marcus sat up slowly, careful not to startle the unexpected visitor. The dog's tail wagged gently as it continued to focus on his hand, as if performing some important task. Marcus examined his hand closely and noticed something that made his blood run cold. There were 2 small puncture wounds on the back of his hand, barely visible but clearly fresh. The dog seemed to be cleaning them with methodical precision. Confusion and fear battled in Marcus's mind as he tried to piece together what had happened. He had no memory of being bitten or injured. The last thing he remembered was falling asleep while reading a book about marine biology. His mother had kissed his forehead before leaving for her night shift at the hospital, just like every other night. The golden retriever looked up at him with soulful brown eyes, as if trying to communicate something urgent. Marcus had always been good at reading body language and facial expressions, skills that had developed as compensation for his hearing loss. This dog was definitely trying to tell him something important. Marcus carefully extracted his hand from the dog's gentle grip and examined the wounds more closely. They were small but deep, and there was a strange discoloration around the edges that he had never seen before. The skin looked slightly grayish, and there was an odd numbness spreading up his arm. Suddenly, the dog stood up and walked toward the bedroom door, then turned back to look at Marcus expectantly. It was clear the animal wanted him to follow. Despite his confusion and growing concern about the mysterious wounds, Marcus felt an inexplicable trust toward this unexpected guardian. He slipped out of bed and followed the dog through the small apartment. The golden retriever led him directly to the front door, where it sat down and looked up at the security camera mounted in the hallway. Marcus had never paid much attention to that camera before, but now the dog seemed to be deliberately drawing his attention to it. The dog then did something extraordinary. It raised one paw and appeared to point directly at the camera, then looked back at Marcus with an expression that seemed almost human in its intelligence and urgency. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he realized this was no ordinary animal encounter. He quickly grabbed his phone and texted his mother, explaining the situation as best he could. Sarah was in the middle of her shift but responded immediately, telling him to stay calm and that she would contact building security to review the camera footage right away. While waiting for his mother's response, Marcus sat on the couch with the mysterious dog beside him. The golden retriever remained calm but alert, occasionally licking the wounds on Marcus's hand with what seemed like medical precision. The numbness in his arm was slowly receding, and the grayish discoloration around the puncture wounds was beginning to fade. 20 minutes later, Marcus's phone buzzed with a call from his mother. Even though he couldn't hear her voice, they had developed an efficient system of communication through text messages during phone calls. Sarah's messages came through rapidly, each one more alarming than the last. The security footage revealed something that defied explanation. At approximately 2 in the morning, a figure had entered their apartment using what appeared to be a master key. The person was dressed in dark clothing and moved with deliberate stealth toward Marcus's bedroom. Most disturbing of all, the intruder carried what looked like a small medical kit and wore latex gloves. The footage showed the intruder approaching Marcus's bed and carefully injecting something into his hand while he slept. The substance in the syringe glowed with an eerie blue light that was barely visible on the security camera. After the injection, the intruder stood over Marcus for several minutes, as if waiting for some kind of reaction. But then something unexpected happened. The golden retriever appeared seemingly from nowhere, entering the apartment through what the security guard described as an impossible route. There was no evidence of the dog breaking in or being let inside. It simply materialized in the hallway and immediately headed toward Marcus's room. The dog's arrival sent the intruder into a panic. The figure quickly packed up the medical equipment and fled through the front door, but not before the golden retriever had begun its methodical treatment of Marcus's hand. The footage clearly showed the dog positioning itself beside the bed and beginning to lick the injection site with focused determination. Sarah's final text message contained information that made Marcus's hands tremble as he read it. The building security guard had contacted the police, and they were treating this as an attempted poisoning. The injection site on Marcus's hand tested positive for a rare neurotoxin that could have caused permanent paralysis or death if left untreated. The golden retriever's saliva, according to the preliminary medical analysis, contained natural enzymes that directly counteracted the specific toxin used in the attack. This was not a coincidence or a lucky accident. Somehow, this dog had known exactly what poison had been administered and had the biological capability to neutralize it. Marcus looked down at his mysterious savior, who continued to rest calmly beside him on the couch. The dog's presence felt both comforting and otherworldly. He reached out to pet the animal's soft fur, and the dog responded by gently licking his palm with what felt like affection and reassurance. The police arrived within the hour, followed closely by Sarah, who had left work immediately upon learning of the incident. The officers took detailed statements and photographs, while a medical team examined Marcus thoroughly to ensure he had suffered no lasting effects from the poisoning attempt. Detective Rodriguez, the lead investigator, was particularly interested in the golden retriever. She had worked hundreds of cases in her 20-year career, but had never encountered anything quite like this situation. The dog's behavior suggested an intelligence and purpose that went far beyond normal animal instincts. When the detective attempted to approach the dog for examination, something remarkable happened. The golden retriever stood up and walked directly to Marcus's bedroom window, which faced the apartment building across the street. It placed its front paws on the windowsill and stared intently at a specific window on the third floor of the opposite building. Detective Rodriguez followed the dog's gaze and immediately radioed for backup. Through binoculars, she could see a figure moving around in the apartment the dog was watching. Within minutes, officers had surrounded the building and were preparing to make an arrest. The suspect turned out to be a former employee of the pharmaceutical company where Sarah worked. He had been fired 6 months earlier for attempting to steal experimental drugs and had apparently been planning revenge against several employees ever since. The neurotoxin used in the attack was one of the compounds he had tried to steal, and he had somehow obtained it through illegal channels. But the mystery of the golden retriever remained unsolved. When Detective Rodriguez turned back to thank the remarkable animal, it was gone. A thorough search of the apartment and building revealed no trace of the dog. It had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. The security footage from after the police arrival showed something that made everyone involved question their understanding of reality. At the exact moment when the suspect was being arrested across the street, the golden retriever could be seen on camera walking toward the apartment's front door. But instead of opening the door or waiting to be let out, the dog simply faded away like morning mist, becoming transparent and then disappearing entirely. Marcus spent the next several days recovering from his ordeal, but the physical effects of the poisoning were completely gone within 48 hours. The puncture wounds on his hand healed without leaving any scars, and medical tests showed no trace of the toxin in his system. It was as if the attack had never happened, except for the security footage and police reports that proved otherwise. Sarah took a week off work to stay with Marcus and help him process what had happened. They spent hours discussing the incident, trying to make sense of the golden retriever's supernatural intervention. Marcus had always been a logical, scientifically minded child, but this experience challenged everything he thought he knew about the world. One evening, while they were having dinner together, Marcus noticed something that made his heart race. On the local news, there was a story about a golden retriever that had been killed in a car accident exactly 1 year ago. The dog had belonged to an elderly man who lived in their neighborhood, and it had been known for its unusually intelligent and protective behavior. The news report included an interview with the dog's former owner, who mentioned that his beloved pet had always seemed to have an uncanny ability to sense danger and illness in humans. The golden retriever had once saved a neighbor's child from choking and had alerted emergency services to a gas leak that could have killed an entire family. Marcus showed the news story to his mother, and they both stared at the photograph of the dog in amazement. It was unmistakably the same animal that had saved Marcus's life. The same intelligent brown eyes, the same gentle expression, even the same distinctive white marking on the chest. Detective Rodriguez visited them the following day to provide updates on the case. When they showed her the news story about the deceased golden retriever, She was quiet for a long moment before sharing something that she had not included in her official report. The detective revealed that she had researched similar cases across the country and found at least 6 other incidents where people had been saved from various dangers by the appearance of a golden retriever that matched the exact description of the dog in the news story. In each case, the animal had appeared at the moment of greatest need, provided exactly the right kind of help, and then vanished without explanation. Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude and wonder as he absorbed this information. Somehow, a loyal and loving dog had continued to protect people even after death, appearing whenever someone was in mortal danger. The idea challenged his scientific worldview, but the evidence was undeniable. As the weeks passed, Marcus found himself changed by the experience in ways that went beyond the physical trauma. He had always felt somewhat isolated by his deafness, but now he understood that protection and love could come from the most unexpected sources. The golden retriever had communicated with him more clearly than many hearing people ever had, using actions and presence instead of words. Sarah noticed the change in her son as well. Marcus seemed more confident and open to new experiences. He started volunteering at the local animal shelter, working with dogs that needed homes and families. His natural empathy and patience made him particularly good at helping nervous or traumatized animals learn to trust humans again. The case against Marcus's attacker proceeded through the courts, with the security footage serving as crucial evidence. The man was eventually sentenced to 15 years in prison for attempted murder and breaking and entering. Detective Rodriguez made sure that Marcus and Sarah were kept informed throughout the legal process. 6 months after the incident, Marcus was walking home from school when he saw a familiar golden shape in his peripheral vision. He turned quickly, but there was nothing there except a gentle breeze that carried the faint scent of dog fur and sunshine. Marcus smiled and continued walking, knowing that somewhere, somehow, his guardian angel was still watching over him. The experience had taught him that the world contained mysteries that science could not yet explain, and that love and protection could transcend even death itself. Marcus carried that knowledge with him as he grew older, and it shaped his understanding of what it meant to be truly safe in an uncertain world. Years later, when Marcus became a veterinarian specializing in animal behavior, he would often tell the story of the golden retriever that saved his life. He never claimed to fully understand what had happened that night, but he knew with absolute certainty that some bonds between humans and animals are so strong that they cannot be broken by anything, not even death itself. The security camera footage from that haunting night remained in the police archives, serving as evidence of something extraordinary that defied conventional explanation. And sometimes, late at night, Marcus would dream of warm brown eyes and a gentle tongue-cleaning wounds that could have killed him, grateful beyond words for the mysterious guardian that had refused to let him face danger alone.